A huge change in the mining market that might affect some of your GPU supplies. Intel shakes up its executive team, and Nvidia increasing supplies of GPUs. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest news that I can find on this very here internet. And in case you want to submit some hot news that you want me to talk about on this show, you can do so over in our Discord server, which is linked in the video description. Would love to see you over there. But let's start off with the hottest news, which is talking about one of the major providers for ASIC miners, which are the big bulky things that sound like jet engines that make you so you mine virtual internet money that typically have replaced GPU miners. Well, they have announced, because of all of the crackdowns that are currently going on in China and the fact that resale values of ASIC miners is plummeting, they aren't going to be producing any more miners for the time being. With this being announced via Bloomberg that the hardware company will no longer be selling hardware for the current moment, with no report on when it's going to be happening. But according to the report, the prices of their ASIC mining rigs have fallen by nearly 75% since April. You add this in conjunction to the fact that we've been talking about GPU prices that have been falling in the US and Europe as well as in Asian markets, and it does seem like the mining craze has potentially died down quite significantly. To get Bitmain to stop selling their ASIC hardware to miners is actually something that didn't even happen in the 2017-2018 crash that happened. Again, we don't know when Bitmain's gonna start selling their rigs again, but this is a huge development that could be boding very promisingly for the fact that GPUs will no longer be going for mining, which means that all we have to do is compete with other gamers and other professionals in order to get these cards, and it might be taking an entire other group out of the mix. However, just on the other side of the note, you might want to keep in consideration, if ASIC miners can't be bought directly from Bitmain, it could, not very likely, open it up so that GPU mining becomes more viable to miners, and so they buy graphics cards to mine things. Not Bitcoin specifically, but other things like an Ethereum ASIC. If you can't get one of those, you just go out and you buy more GPUs. However, the resale value of the ASIC miners is plummeting because they're not as valuable, so it wouldn't necessarily correlate into more GPUs being sold. Just a thought that I wanted to throw out there to you. But what do you think of Bitmain stopping to sell their ASIC miners? I want to hear from you down below in the comments. Is this good? Is this bad? What do you make of it? But I tell you what I make of the Drop Enter keyboard, because Drop is today's episode sponsor of Hot News, and I love it, especially because it's so wallet friendly. The Drop Enter is how you should enter into the mechanical keyboard market, because it's sturdy, it's aesthetically pleasing, it has a white backplate instead of the gamer RGB. The aluminum backplate adds heft and makes it look and feel different from all of the cheap plastic competitors, and you get a selection of Gateron Yellow for a smooth typing experience, or Halo True switches for the tactile clicky typing experience. And it comes in a variety of colors between black, green, or white, and the price is only $90 with it shipping immediately with international shipping. And the keycaps on it are made from double shot PVT, meaning that the legends will never fade or scratch off. But one of the big things about the mechanical keyboard market is that you can customize it to how you want, in which case you can go on Drop and select from many of the hundreds of different keycaps to customize the Enter to the way that you want it to look. And trying is believing, so Drop has a generous 30-day, no questions asked return policy on the Enter, but I'm very confident that you're gonna love this thing. So check out the Enter at the link in the video description. It's one of my favorite 10 keyless mechanical keyboards, especially because of that $90 price tag. Check them out down below, and big thanks again to Drop for sponsoring today's episode of Hot News. But in case you wanna get a drop on a GPU, well, Nvidia has announced their RTX 3080 Ti limited edition Demon Slayer Doom Eternal bundle, which will come with a whole bunch of stuff, including a game code, as well as the exclusive Doom Eternal Titanium Slayer. This is to commemorate the fact that DLSS 2.0 is coming out to Doom Eternal on June 29th. But in case you want to enter in to potentially buy this bundle, you can do so over on Bethesda store, and you have to register by July 6th in order to enter into the GPU bundle lottery, which is the more or less proper way to actually get these things out to you. Nvidia also releasing their Canvas app, which allows you to just doodle on a canvas, and then it will turn it into AI generated landscape and scenery, as you can see right here, their YouTube video of just the little changes that you can make, which will then bring just, you know, mountains into life on the water. This is kind of neat to see this as a AI generated thing where you can just, I don't know, create things for things. Good words, Brett. You're good at talking about the creative art stuff, and Intel's really good at shaking things up because they have a brand new executive team with Raja Koduri not being canned like it was previously rumored by a bunch of different sites a few months ago, saying that Raja Koduri had fallen out of favor and he was no longer going to be sticking around. Au contraire, he's been promoted because they've changed their data platform group to be restructured into 2 new business units, as well as creating 2 new business units on top of that, one focused on software and one on high performance computing and graphics, and Raja Koduri is going to be leading that one. So not necessarily falling out of favor with Intel, but rather actually taking on a more important role with Intel's GPU division, which you want to get subscribed over to UFD Tech because we have a review coming out on Intel's DG1 GPU over on that channel. So get subscribed. That'll be dropping at 2 p.m. Eastern today. And what won't be dropping right now is Cryptostonks. Let's get into the update. Bitcoin up 1.9% as of the time of recording, $33,000. You can see that towards the end of Tuesday evening, it increased sharply from just under 32 grand to just over 34 grand, with Ethereum also being up 1.2%, still under $2,000. Dogecoin also up 16% on the day to be around 22 cents. But in case you're from South Africa and you were part of a Bitcoin exchange, $3.6 billion is gone, as well as the co-founders of that exchange, with it being announced that they were hacked back in April, and with investigations going on with regards to this $3.6 billion Bitcoin hack. The co-founders, they just left and they're gone and they don't know where anything is. And the article adds that complicating any recovery attempt is that South Africa's Finance Sector Conduct Authority can't launch a formal investigation into the incident because cryptocurrency isn't legally considered a financial product in the country. South Africa's gonna win. It's great. If I know anything about South Africa and I know anything about people fleeing the country, they probably did it out of Waterkloof Air Force Base. So that's probably, that's just how you get out of the country if you're in a little bit of a pickle. You just head on over to Waterkloof and you just... Let's talk about the meme stonks for a second. GameStop, you normally wanted to close up, but it closed down 0.69%, which I think is nicer than it closing up even a little bit at 218.87. AMC closing down 0.14%, and BlackBerry closing down 2%. So not necessarily a great day for the meme stocks, but a great day for Microsoft because their valuation exceeded $2 trillion when their stock increased 1.2% yesterday, which makes them one of the very few companies worth over $2 trillion. Apple is not sitting at the top with Amazon looking down at Microsoft anymore. No, no, no. Microsoft's still really valuable, and EA thinks mobile games are super valuable, with them spending $1.4 billion on Playdemic, which is just a terrible name for something that has been found to be actually relatively addictive and kind of focuses on the gambling addiction that a lot of people have. So calling it Playdemic, which is, an epidemic or a pandemic of people playing, which essentially is just, it's an infectious virus of people spending their money on things that they can't afford because they're physically addicted to the damn game. Good anyways, EA buying it. This is on top of a previous purchase that they did for Glue of back in February for $2.1 billion. But in case you don't want to be tracked when you search for how to cheat at those mobile games, well, you should maybe consider checking out Brave's new search/function feature, which allows you to not be tracked while you search for things because they use a third-party index, which should be privacy safe, to make it so that Google can't track you, and you don't have to use Google Chrome. You just use the Brave browser with Brave's search engine. You go to search.brave.com, and then you have more privatized search. Is this something that you're considering using? Let me know down below in the comments. But we talked about in yesterday's episode of Hot News that the game developers of Marvel's Avengers didn't actually focus on privacy because they were blasting everybody's IP address out to the internet when you played the game. That has now been fixed, and Microsoft has fixed their cloud streaming service to not be running on piddly old Xbox One X hardware. It's now been upgraded, at least partially, to Xbox Series X hardware, which means that the games run faster, they load faster, and they're just better to play overall. Certain games like Yakuza, Rainbow Six Siege, and others are now showing 120 FPS options, which is exactly what Microsoft promised they were going to do for xCloud. And YouTube promises that they're here for the creators as well as the viewers, but as has been my case every single time I've gotten a community guideline strike, it just certainly doesn't feel that way, especially when it's arbitrary bullcrap. Cue the Screw Nintendo video I did over on UFD Tech a few months ago, where I got a community guideline strike for a video that very clearly doesn't violate any community guidelines, but Nintendo didn't like it. So they sent their legal team after YouTube, and YouTube was like, hey, UFT Tech, you. Anyways, bringing all this up because now they're talking about including timestamps when they decide to take down your videos for violating whatever community guidelines, any sort of policy violation you might have. They'll give you a timestamp saying, hey, this is specifically what you screwed up, which would have been so freaking helpful from the beginning, YouTube. I'm very appreciative that this is happening now. Like, I'm actually genuinely, positively like, this is good, but at the same time, you kind of screwed me over, and I have the possibility of UFT Tech, just being deleted at any random given moment because this wasn't a policy from the very beginning for you to inform people what actually went wrong with the videos. Instead, you're just like, hey, screw you, this video doesn't belong here. Okay, but what did I do wrong? Legal issues with Nintendo. I hate it. I hate it so much. YouTube also taking down unlisted videos, making them private if they were uploaded before January 1st, 2017. So the videos are still gonna exist. They're just gonna change the privacy feature from unlisted to private. And it's not gonna be private anymore. How many RTX 3060s you got? I see you, Zach, over at Zach's Tech Turf, releasing an Instagram story about how you just picked up 3 RTX 3060s. Save some for the rest of us, man. Anyways, Nvidia might be allowing there to be more supply of RTX 3060s with them increasing supply in July, but it's not for you, my friend. You're not gonna be able to get it because this is supposedly going to be going towards internet cafes in China, and that's where all of these cards are going to likely be sold to, at least according to the report from IT Home. So don't necessarily get your hopes up that you're gonna be able to buy them, but at least Nvidia's not creating an entirely new SKU for them like they did back with the GTX 1060, where they made the 1065 gig and they confused everybody with that, and it was just a whole new card. At least it's just a regular old RTX 3060 that you won't be able to buy. So what does it matter? I don't know. And what does AMD's FSR matter? Actually, quite a lot. You should go check out yesterday's episode of Hot News where we discussed Fidelity FX Super Resolution. And with that being said, I'll see you for the last episode of Hot News in Florida. Holy crap, that's tomorrow. See ya.